6 and we got out at like
He's in
7:30.
Tallahassee.
Good evening, everyone.
He's watching.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to allow 2 more seconds. That way we can bring the room down and we'll get the program started. I am Hector Gomez. I am the town manager for the town of Surfside. And welcome today to all of our candidates and our audience members, as well as everyone live, as we are live today. As the first one was so good that we had to just repeat live today. Sincerely, my true apologies to all of you. Technical difficulties from time to time do happen, and I'm just very happy that we all move on and we're able to give our residents the time so that they could see our candidates, and we give our candidates the platform so that our residents can go out and vote and do what this is all about. So with that said, I am Hector Gomez. I will confirm one last time that we are live. On air means we are live. I did get a signal that we are broadcasting, so I am relieved. I want to thank so much to the League of Women Voters for being out here, for helping us out, not just the second time, but every time we do this. You guys are an awesome partner, and I couldn't ask for another one. So thank you very much for being a great partner. Ms. Jody Lehman, thank you for assisting us setting this up as a voter services chair. I will allow you the honors to introduce to us Dr. Murphy before we start our evening. And we are looking forward to a great evening. I wish everyone the best of luck. And if you need any assistance, that's what we're here for. So thank you very much, Ms. Jody Lehman.
I usually get a standing ovation when I come the second time. So the League of Women Voters, just to give you a little bit about us, is a nonpartisan organization, which means that there are no Ds, Rs, or even Is for us. We are 100 years old, and we are dedicated to educating voters, candidate forums, making sure people first register to vote, and if they want to, vote by mail, and then to get out the vote if they're going in person. So I urge everybody who can hear me to do that. And just one small note before I go into the rules, and that is the Florida legislature requires that people who want to vote by mail re-register every year. And so if you have not registered vote by mail in 2024 and you wish to do so for this election, now is your time, literally. With that, I'm going to go through the candidate forum rules. No substitutes or stand-ins for candidates. Permission to record, and I think we certainly have that. Agreement by the candidates, no portion will be used in political advertisements. That phones and other electronic communication equipment must be turned off and not used by any of the candidates. There will be 3 minutes per candidate for an opening statement and a closing statement, and 90 seconds to respond to questions. You'll go in alphabetical order. I'm your timekeeper, and the questions were submitted by attendees and other folks ahead of time, and that's it. And with that, we're off. And let me introduce Dr. Terry Murphy, our moderator, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because I know, yes. That's the ovation.
Thank you, Jody, and thanks everyone here at the City of Surfside. My name is Terry Murphy. I'm, in addition to being a professor at the University of Miami, adjunct professor in the political science department, I serve on the National Council of the American Society for Public Administration. And the American Society for Public Administration is all about good governance, and this opportunity to have this forum here this evening is a good fit for me as an ASPA member, and also my wife, who's active in the League of Women Voters. I'm here in large part because of her. And the fact that I'm here for the second time is because of her. So, no, I agree to do this, and unfortunately we had a technical problem last time, but we're going to get through this evening and hopefully have a good evening and good responses so that the people here in Surfside can hear from you and get a sense of who you are as candidates so we can make the best decision going forward for good government here in Surfside. So we're going to begin with opening statements. And the issue about the cell phones was brought to my attention too. I didn't ask last time to refrain from the cell phone usage on the dais, but please do, because I think it's a little bit unfair, to others, or it becomes suspicious that you're getting fed answers or something. So don't do that. It's not good for the image of the process we have here tonight. So if you can just set your cell phones aside for the next couple hours and just enjoy the room, we'll have a good evening that way. So we'll start. We're going to go alphabetical. We begin with Mr. Bloomstein, and we'll work our way down the dais for opening statements, and then I'm going to sequentially rotate who goes first on the questions, alphabetically also, and then at the end of the evening, we'll start at the other end with Mr. Vildastegui to get it back to a reverse order. Vildastegui, I'm sorry, that's it.
Getting closer.
Yeah, we're going to get it. We're going to, that's the order of the evening, so we'll start out with 3 minutes, and Jody will be doing the timekeeping. And which cards do you have to elevate for the time reminders? We have yellow cards for 30 seconds left and red to stop. So keep an eye on her while you're making your statements, and let's keep it there so we get the time done. And then, like I said, we have up to 90 seconds on the responses to questions. If you're capable of answering the question quickly, feel free to do so. It gives us more time. We have lots of great questions from the citizens this round. Again, we have fresh questions, so we're happy to have the citizens engaged in this process as well. So with all of that, let's start with Mr. Bloomstein for opening statements. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this important event, and to Dr. Murphy for moderating. My name is Gerald Bloomstein, and I am honored to be a candidate for the Surfside Commission. Having been a resident of Surfside for over 30 years, I am deeply invested in the well-being of our town. I share my life with my beautiful wife, Jacqueline, a dedicated second-grade teacher at Ruth K. Broad Bay Harbor K-8, where our son, Ruben, is currently in 5th grade. By day, I teach second-grade math at Miami Beach Feinberg Fisher K-8, and in the evenings, I teach immigrant adults conversational English. Some of you may recognize me from my prior role as Chief of Staff to Dr. Martin Karp, school board member for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. In that capacity, I was the point person for constituent services, addressing questions, concerns, and complaints related to our public schools. I also assisted in the management of a budget far in excess of that of Surfside. Further, I played a pivotal role in bringing about after-school Hebrew programming to Ruth K. Broad Bay Harbor K-8 in collaboration with the Shul of Bell Harbor, headquartered here in Surfside. I am running for commissioner to bring back fiscal responsibility, respect for colleagues and residents, and the preservation of the small-town charm that brought me here about 30 years ago. I am prepared to lead from day one in office, given my professional experience, including a solid understanding of Robert's Rules of Orders, my great personality, and my commitment to true decorum and focus on town business. My commitment to you is to serve as an independent voice, accountable solely to the voters. My platform centers on key pillars essential for our community's prosperity. 1, community engagement. I promise to ensure that everyone is heard and each point of view is genuinely considered in shaping our town's future. 2, local issues and solutions. I promise to address traffic, parking, and flooding problems with sustainable urban planning. 3, economic development. I am committed to fostering a vibrant local economy by supporting small business and attracting new ones to our town. 4, sustainability and environment. I promise to preserve our town's natural beauty by advocating for green policies that promote sustainable living. 5, education and programming. I promise to invest in our schools, provide low or no-cost youth and senior programs, and finish the 96th Street Park on time and budget. 6, transparency and accountability. I promise to be transparent in all commission activities, ensuring accountability to the residents I serve. 7, inclusivity and diversity. I promise to work tirelessly to make our town a place where everyone feels welcome and valued. My long-term vision is for our town to thrive and grow while maintaining its charm and unique character. Your support is invaluable in realizing the vision for Surfside. Together, let's build a community that thrives and embodies the spirit of Surfside. Thank you.
Okay. A little over the 3-minute measure, but we're okay. We'll move on now. Mr. Jared Brunabin, please.
Good evening. I am Jared Burnabend. I want to thank Dr. Murphy, the League of Women Voters, the members of the community here tonight, and those watching from home. I have been a resident of South Florida since 2008 and a resident of Surfside since 2017. My family and I moved to Surfside because of the appeal of its small-town feel, yet in an urban environment, a highly rated public school system, proximity to the beach, and the retail amenities nearby. I live with my partner, Vianeshka, and my 14-year-old stepdaughter, Luna. During the outset of COVID, I began watching the commission meetings from the comforts of my couch. What I and many others witnessed was disturbing. As someone who spent several years in a non-elected government position in New York City during the Bloomberg administration as a project manager of the New York Economic Development Corporation, I couldn't imagine cities were mismanaged this way. A city commission has the responsibility to the citizens to work as a unit, have productive debates, discussions, but ultimately make decisions, move the town forward, and not hold grudges. I am a fresh face to Surfside politics, and I would like residents to know that I'm a practical person with a moral compass that seeks to offer my experience and skill sets to move the town forward. Many people think I am crazy to do this. I have zero political ambitions. I see this as an opportunity as serving the residents for the betterment of the entire community. I am experienced working with others that may or may not have the same opinion as me, and also comfortable working in leadership roles. While I have not served on any committee within the town of Surfside, I have had leadership roles or board positions in both for-profit and non-for-profit structures. I have served as a board member of 7 condominium association and 1 housing cooperative. I also served on the board of directors of a $1.5 billion real estate holding company that owned and managed over 800 early learning childcare centers. My experience in New York included working with local community boards, city councilmen and women, borough presidents, as well as city and state agencies. As the opposing ticket has brought to everyone's attention, I work professionally in the real estate industry and have done so for almost 25 years. Some of the skill sets I have developed include dissecting data, understanding market trends, financial analysis, and budgeting. To be perfectly clear, I do not own or make investments in Surfside except for our personal residence on Garland Avenue. No, I do not want Surfside to become Sunny Isles, and yes, I believe in responsible growth. I believe stormwater management is our largest challenge ahead as a community. For many of us, our largest asset is our home, which is at risk each hurricane season. On March 19th, if you are seeking a new voice who can work with others in a practical manner, compromise, and move forward, vote for me, Jared Burnabend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brunabin. Now we'll hear from Ruben Cotto. Good evening.
Dr. Murphy, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and the League of Women Voters. Hello again. Okay. I live in Surfside for over 34 years, along with my wife, Leah Baruch, who's sitting there today. We raised 2 amazing sons here in our great little town, and that's part of the reason we come here and we live here. Over the years, I have served as a town commissioner, education committee liaison, on Parks and Recreation Committee, vice president of the Surfside Business Association in past years. Most recently on the Program for Public Information. When I served back in 2004, we got in the trenches and fought to protect our town from overdevelopment. We worked to strengthen our code to protect our town, and I'm very proud of the work we did. We worked with our local schools and worked on developing kids, not properties for developers. We're all about public service, not personal gains or egos. We offered a 0 non-zilch favors or variances for developers. Again, it was and should be all about public service and not personal gain. That's why I'm running for commissioner again. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Cotto. Mr. David Forbes.
Thank you. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, our moderator, and for all of you for coming back again. Let me explain why I want to be commissioner in a way that cannot be lied about or misconstrued. Most important, we have to find a way to try to fix the flooding in this town, not sitting up here blaming each other for not getting it done. actually doing the work and going to the people and letting them know what it's actually going to cost. The cost will be higher than we originally anticipated, but what is the alternative? Not to do it? Let's be upfront with everybody, let's explain where we are today, and let's stop pointing fingers and get the job started. I am absolutely in favor of burying the power lines. This also needs to be relooked at because the prices are substantially different today than when it was approved years ago. I will also be looking to making the retail on Harding Avenue cleaner, more attractive, and inclusive for all residents of Surfside. I am for figuring out the parking and how to make it for our residents first and everybody else second. But anyone that thinks that's an easy job really has not spent time and sat down and thought about how it gets done. I am not for a parking deck, but I will listen to all ideas from all residents on what we can do to make the parking easier so none of us have to walk 4 to 5 blocks to Publix or CVS. I am for right development, whether it's on the beach or it's our citizens that want to upgrade and rebuild their homes. A goal of any town is not to stop and go backwards, it's to move forwards. And the idea of just saying no development is just a way to get elected and not reality. There are always minorities and majorities in any public office, and I promise you this, that whoever gets elected next month, I will sit up here and work with. I will not yell at them and scream at them or swear at them because I'm in the minority. I will sit and work with anybody who is up on this bench. I will also not take text messages from people in the audience to tell me how to vote. You need smart people up here. You need people that understand finances, how to get things done at the best prices, how to implement it, and sometimes even how to compromise for the good of the town. You need commissioners that understand what 2% of $300 million is. Even after 2 guesses, they still can't get it right. You need commissioners that have their own ideas and not somebody in the front row texting them ideas and telling them what to say. I promise you that I will work every day for the people of Surfside to get them what they want. But doing this does not mean going backwards at all. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We have done that with a lot of candidates sitting on this bench. Their time has come and gone. They have tried and tried again and cannot get it done. You're going to hear tonight about how many times certain people have been elected up here. It's time to say no to them. It's time to move on and get fresh faces. My name is David Forbes, and I hope to get your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Now we'll hear from Mr. Fred Landsman. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you first and again to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. Thank you again, Dr. Murphy, for acting as our moderator. And thank you to our town staff for always taking the best care of Surfside. Thanks to our town manager, Hector Gomez, and our town clerk, Sandra McCready. Special thanks to all of our Surfside residents here in chambers and to those watching from home. I humbly ask for your vote. I'm honored to have the opportunity to run for re-election to the Surfside Commission. I fondly recall this event from 2 years ago with 6 candidates. Now we have 9. I wish all of us good luck. For those who may not know me, my name is Fred Landsman. I've been a Surfside resident for 14 years, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, a Floridian for 24 years. I've been married to my wonderful wife, Courtney, for 20 years and have 2 daughters. Sydney is a freshman at the Parsons School of Design in New York, and Jenna is a junior at Mast at FIU. They make me very proud. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois and my MBA from Loyola Marymount University. My career has been mostly in corporate America, 10 plus years in technical sales, 4 years in the restaurant industry where I owned and operated a restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. And for the past 25 years, I've been in corporate recruiting and recruiting leadership. Here in Surfside, I've served on the Downtown Vision Advisory Committee, was the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Board. 2 years ago, I was elected to serve on the Surfside Commission. It's been an honor to serve our town. My priorities continue to be public safety, listening and respecting our entire community, respect and support for town employees and administration, responsible growth while incorporating the history and uniqueness of Surfside, ensuring our residents, visitors, and businesses have options and choices in the way you live your life, renovate or build a home, recreation and events for their families, services for the community. I look forward to answering your questions here tonight and throughout the campaign. I ask for your vote to be able to continue my work for the town of Surfside. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, sir. Ms. Tina Paul, good evening.
Thank you, and welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tina Paul, and I previously served 3 terms on the commission. In the last election, I was one of 3 mayoral candidates. The mayor we have was elected by 25 votes instead of the 2 more experienced candidates. He was given the responsibility and obligation to keep our community united. In my previous 2-year term, I was the only candidate re-elected to serve with a new mayor and new commission at the start of the COVID pandemic. We worked diligently to get updated information to the community, provided masks, food distributions, elderly wellness checks, free testing, and weekly Zoom meetings under the new normal guidelines of Miami-Dade County. Right when life was getting back to normal and businesses were recovering from the pandemic, our town suffered the 3rd deadliest structural failure in United States history, which resulted in 98 deaths and displaced 126 survivors. The world shared in our grief, and as a community, we stood strong together with kindness. As an elected official serving during this tragedy, there were many challenges and needs to attend to, as well as regular town business. Before leaving office, I co-drafted Ordinance 22-1720, which our commission unanimously passed to provide standard protections for neighboring properties during demolition and new construction. I attended the 1-year anniversary commemoration of our tragedy with a Champlain survivor, and also attended the first yahrzeit commemoration at Young Israel, where special guest speaker Rabbi Pesach Krohn gave an inspirational speech, Aches in Unity in Difficult Times. The rabbi pointed out, united and untied have the same letters. He said, if you are not united, then you become untied. I'm running for office because the current commission has untied our unity. We've seen residents escorted out of commission meetings by police officers, multiple sudden departures of loyal employees, misuse of public funds, misinterpretation of our zoning code to benefit developers, and we witnessed the ultimate betrayal of the Champlain victims and families. The word legacy has been used by the current commission as a way to denigrate residents who live in older houses or have lived in Surfside for decades. How we choose to define legacy is dependent on what we value most in life. An artist's legacy can influence the way in which a generation or its culture and style are defined. Legacy can be career accomplishments, financial success, or incredible talent. How you define legacy will determine how you spend your life. A legacy is about creating a positive future for the generations who will come after you. As our town continues to transform, it is up to us as a community to understand our Surfside heritage and choose the correct definition of legacy for the future of Surfside. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Jeffrey Rose.
Thank you all for joining, some for a second time. My name is Jeff Rose. I've served as the Vice Mayor of Surfside for the past 2 years. I want to start off tonight with explaining to residents why I serve as a commissioner and why I've chosen to run again. I'm here because I've been a resident for 10 years and I plan to stay. This is where my wife and I are raising our 5- and 7-year-old boys, and I want Surfside to be the very best that it can be. I moved here because I saw the charm that Surfside had. I want Surfside to maintain that charm while being realistic that Surfside must keep up with the times. If you follow meetings closely, you will know that for years prior to me becoming a commissioner, I attended almost every meeting to educate myself and be involved. I did not do so only during campaign season. Also, I've always attended many town events with my family, not just during campaign season. My consistent involvement, my relationships with many different types of residents, and my ability to respectfully communicate with residents, regardless of their views, is how I have become so connected to our community. I'm not here to get my name in the newspaper. I'm not here for bigger political aspirations. I'm not here to grow my business. I promise that my business has not grown in my last 2 years as vice mayor. I'm here because I care about Surfside. I'm not here to make empty campaign promises. Things like fixing our flooding, doing a major underground project, and other hot ticket issues are not going to happen overnight. However, we must push those important items forward. Anyone that claims they're going to fix those problems overnight, especially those that have had an opportunity up here in the past, is not being honest. Over the last 2 years, I put forward and supported some very important initiatives. You can see the full list on my website, votechefrose.com, so that you can see how effective I've been and how I continue to be effective in my role as a commissioner. You can see for yourself that despite what you've heard, it's not all zoning issues. Far from it. I would like to spend the next 2 years working on some of the following initiatives: oversight of undergrounding and master stormwater plan, more walkable streets, new high school for Surfside and neighboring coastal cities, oversight of the design, timing, and budget for the Champlain Memorial Site, work with condo owners on obtaining financing to ensure compliance with new condo safety laws. Tonight, when listening to each candidate, I would ask that you keep an open mind and consider which of these candidates really understands the issues enough to discuss and vote intelligently on them, which of these candidates back up accusations that they make with actual proof. If you hear something tonight that's important to you, but you have not seen proof or do not have firsthand knowledge, please ask for it. Please do your research. Not everything is as it seems. If a candidate makes a promise that they could have initiated in their past terms, why is it now different? Why are they blaming others? Lastly, whether the candidates are being truthful, are being true to their beliefs, or just presenting a false sense of togetherness just so they can get elected. Do not forget about the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Now for an opening statement from Nellie Velasquez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to thank Surfside residents, the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and to my family for all the love and support through the years. I have lived in Surfside for 12 years and served as your commissioner for the past 4 years. As we embark on this pivotal campaign debate, I stand before you with a clear and unwavering commitment to prioritize the needs of our residents over special interest developer candidates. Our community deserves leadership that puts its residents first, ensuring the decisions made are with your well-being at heart. We must not overlook the pressing issues that have been stalled for the past 2 years and that directly impact our quality of life. The Abbott Avenue Drainage Project, the undergrounding of the power lines, and the completion of the 96th Street Park, which we designed and funded during my first term as a commissioner. These projects are not just promises, but essential initiatives that demand urgent attention. I have time after time exposed against great opposition a serious lack of commitment of the current commission to complete these vital infrastructure projects. The fact that the 96th Street Park remains uncompleted is a real failure and highlights the incompetence exhibited by Shlomo Danziger and his allies in his firing of our highly regarded former town manager. You don't get great staff and hire inexperienced replacements and expect to accomplish time-sensitive goals. Furthermore, I am deeply committed to restoring respect and fostering an inclusive environment at our commission meetings. Every resident deserves to have their voice heard, and every opinion deserves a genuine consideration. Together, we will create a forum where transparency, accountability, and collaboration thrive. No more silencing residents' free speech and genuine concerns. The degradation of the 2 women on this commission, the horrible verbal abuse, the racial attacks, and the throwing out of residents from our meetings simply because they disagree with the mayor and vice mayor's agenda must end. The mayor's allies must also be held accountable for all the above, as they have consistently stood by and done precisely that, nothing. In the future, there will be no more silencing or disrespect of our residents. Finally, let us not forget the importance of honoring the 98 souls lost at the Champlain Tower collapse. The completion of the Champlain Memorial stands as a testament to our collective identity and serves as a symbol to honor our lost family, friends, and neighbors. I will work tirelessly to see this project and all the others mentioned above, which are currently stalled, through to completion. In the journey ahead, let us unite in our vision for a vibrant, inclusive, and prosperous community. Together, we will build a future that reflects the hopes and aspirations of every Surfside resident. It has been my honor to serve the residents of Surfside, and I hope to be considered when you cast your vote. Thank you, Nelly Velasquez, for a strong and united Surfside.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Gerardo Valdastegui.
I'm Gerardo Valdastegui, and I am, is my mic on? Yes, I am a lifelong Surfsider. At the first Commission Candidates Forum back in January, I talked about what it meant to me as a lifelong Surfsider to sit up here at the dais for the very first time. Well, I can't give that exact opening statement again because I'm back. And not back in the way that I imagined when I said, I hope you invite me back. But, you know, as Alanis Morissette said, life has a funny way of sneaking up on you, and here we are again. But what I said last time and still holds true is that being up here on the dais means a lot to me. Whatever time I have up here is my opportunity to try to do the very thing that my campaign is all about, which is trying to convince you that politics in Surfside can be something better than they have been. I want to convince you that it's possible to have honest, rational, ethical, and compassionate conversation at the dais, and that can be the center of our small-town democracy. I don't want to talk about the dais too much, though. I want to shift my focus in this second opening statement to another piece of furniture in this room, and that's the podium over there where Dr. Murphy stands. I'm not entirely sure about this. I welcome correction if I'm wrong, but I believe that of the candidates up here, I may have spent the most time at that podium as a speaker. If not, I'm a close second. And I want to talk about that piece of furniture rather than this one, because my campaign is premised on the idea that there is an intimate connection between those two places, and that small-town democracy depends on what happens here and there. And of course, by the podium, I mean the community at large and all the conversation that we have with you, the public. It's 4 weeks later since the last candidates forum, and in those 4 weeks, you can get a sense of my vision of democracy from the campaign that I've been running. There are about 100 of my yellow yard signs around town that say, "Keep Surfside Special." To my knowledge, not a single one of those 100 yard signs is at a house that is owned by a developer shell corporation. Every single one of them is in a house where the occupant has put the sign there because they support me, not because their landlord asked them to do it. The yard signs are just a superficial symbol. Dig deeper. If you go to the Surfside website and look at my financial reports, every single donation that funds my campaign either comes from a Surfsider or a personal friend, some of whom have known me since childhood and believe in me. I am not being supported by the one Surfside PAC, whose shadowy $20,000 have polluted our politics, and we have no idea where that money comes from. If anyone knocks on your door asking you to vote for me, it's likely me, sunburned and thirsty. I have no paid workers knocking on doors or distributing my materials. I'm doing it myself because that's what democracy means. I also want to say that that vision of democracy should shape how you think about this debate. The answers that we give to you tonight, at least in my view, are not a platform that I'm going to implement hell or high water. They are the beginning of a conversation that I hope we have. It's important to think about that because that's the vision of democracy that includes the podium and the dais, and that's what I'm asking you to be the reason why you vote for me.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to start the questions with a softball question, but it's actually a pickleball question. I have a question from two different residents with different views on pickleball here. I'm going to read the very first one. It's somewhat of an essay, so pay attention to the question. I don't want to repeat it again. And then I'll read the second one. First, it starts out saying, what is the urgency to build a new pickleball center when Surfside has a beautiful oceanfront, centrally located community center that could better serve the community by building a second story? Right now, there is one small room that is used for most programs. The senior art class is bursting with the tight space, and the monthly senior lunch meeting could also be better served with more space. There needs to be more programming for seniors, and additional meeting spaces are needed to expand the community programming. The ocean view that a second story would provide would also attract business by adding a banquet room that could be rented out for weddings and events, providing revenue for the town. One centrally located center with larger rooms would be more functional than several buildings with smaller rooms. I also think this issue needs to go to the voters to decide how to spend the proposed $6 million earmarked for the pickleball center. That's one view. And then the other question that came in said, if elected, What will you do to further the new tennis center, pickleball, and resident gym? So we have different views, and now we want to know your views. So we'll start with Mr. Bloomstein on this round of questions and ask for your response.
Thank you. So let me guess, we got pickleball or flooding? We don't need pickleball and a new gym right now. We need dry streets. When I'm elected, I'm going to open up the police gym to all residents so that the residents can know the police and the police can know the residents without blacked out tinted windows. My number one priority in office is to get flooding work funded and started to resolve Abbott Avenue flooding and flooding issues identified in the July 2023 forum, including Hawthorne, Irving, Bay Drive, and on the Isle of Biscaya. I will support anything that will relieve our flooding and improve our drainage. As well, we need to find creative and legal ways to deal with our infrastructure problem. I think we can use that $6 million for pickleball for the flooding. We have to plan, execute, and deliver. We need to bury our power lines also before laying concrete sidewalks. And when we do sidewalks, they need to be ADA compliant. And we need to get rid of the spaghetti electrical wires overhead and across our streets and roads. So pickleball can wait. We have plenty of pickleball at Hollover Beach, and we could use the freebie shuttles to take our residents there to play. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Brunneman, the same issue, if you can respond.
Yes. There was a lot of discussion at the last commission meeting about the tennis center. I believe someone up here's brother spoke and talked that potentially the current structure of the community center can take on a second story. But I think it also was discussed that it would require shutting down for several years. I know that that facility is used by many families in this town, and I'm not in support of shutting down the community center for 2 years in order to build a second story. I don't know that it's called a pickleball center. I think it's a redeveloped or tennis center. I think there's a big misconception that certain people up here like to talk about using money that would be used at the tennis center for stormwater problems. That's not possible. There are separate funds. The tennis center would be built with tourism dollars. Tourism dollars cannot be used for stormwater solutions. I said in my opening remarks, I think stormwater planning is the most important item that our town faces today. It's going to cost a lot. The Abbott Avenue $4.5 million dream project is not the solution. It's going to cost a lot more on Abbott Avenue, and it's going to cost a lot more in our town. We, as tax-paying residents, at least most of us up here, we have to all invest in our community. In order for us to do undergrounding, solving stormwater problems, we all have to be willing to commit dollars to solve our community's problems.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cotto, you on this issue.
I've got a lot of friends who play pickleball. I think it's great. But the truth is, there are so many other projects that need to get taken care of that have been stalled for a couple of years. The flooding is probably number one, finishing the Champlain Tower Memorial and putting money towards that. And if we're spending $6 million on a new tennis pickleball center, like my colleague said, that money could be definitely used to solve some of the serious problems that we're dealing with. As far as programming, absolutely. We have a great director with Tim Millian. I think he's wonderful. And adding more programming, absolutely. As far as construction, I don't know how they would be able to do that and closing down. Nobody wants to close down the community center for 2 years. But definitely the money of the $6 million could definitely be used to solve other issues in town.
Okay, very good. Mr. Forbes, please.
So, you guys can go ahead if you want. He didn't say anything. So far, 2 people up here haven't said anything about this. It was a real simple question. You will have to shut this down for a minimum of 2 years. And I promise you, when it comes down to it, nobody in here is going to want that closed. not temporarily closed, shut down for 2 years. Clap, scream, holler all you want. It will have to close. Where is everything else going to go? Where are the senior programs going to go? Where are my kids' programs going to go? They are updating the tennis courts. Everything has been approved. Anyone that would have gone to the meetings that I was at as well would have seen what is going on there. If you haven't seen the photos and the renderings, it's because you didn't go to the meetings. If you would have gone and you would have been there, you would have seen exactly what is being done. It's already been approved. The $6 million cannot go to storm drainage. We've told you that. Everyone's told you that. You can, as much as you would like, to listen to people up here that will lie to you constantly because the head of the snake sits in the second row and says things that isn't true. That we can't listen to. Thank you.
Please. I would caution the candidates, let's not identify individuals, please. Let's just keep to our
He
statement.
didn't say a name.
Just beginning.
But I don't know who he's speaking of, but I mean, let's move on to Mr. Landsman. If anyone feels on the day, excuse me. If anyone feels on the dais that they've been identified by a comment and they'd like to respond to it, raise your hand and I will afford you 30 seconds. Mr. Landsman, let's move forward.
Thank you.
On this pickleball issue.
I've played pickleball once. It's interesting. I'm not sure I want to do it again, but we'll see. I'm more of a tennis player. One of the things I'll say is, as a sitting member of the commission, you can do more than one thing at a time. If the only discussion is about pickleball and the pickleball center, the tennis center, then you're missing the bigger point, which is the commission has responsibilities for many projects, many activities, many things that's why our meetings take 6, 7, 8 hours. We're here till 2 in the morning. But to the tennis center, it's a project to bring another park and with a community capability, with programming, with rooms to our community, which has very limited space for parks, very limited space for programming for children, for our elderly, for whoever it might be. And again, if you haven't served these 2 years or if you haven't listened, you don't know how one fund can't be used to do things for another community area. Stormwater funds are separate and distinct from, wow, 30 seconds, from anything to do with tourism. So listen, learn, and understand it takes more than just platitudes. And one thing I will say, the 96th Street Park, the undergrounding project, and the stormwater remediation for our entire town projects have not been stalled. This commission has worked every meeting to move those forward as fast as possible, but things like these big, major, multi-million dollar projects take a lot of time. They will continue if I am reelected.
Thank you, Mr. Landsman. Let's get a response now from Ms. Tina Paul.
Thank you, and I appreciate this question. Let me first say, because somehow the Abbott drainage stormwater got mixed into this, and let me just say the Abbott drainage project was already funded, and we also had matching grants that were provided 2 years ago. As far as the pickleball, when I was on the commission and we were working on the 96th Street Park construction and design, there was a lot of interest for a kayak launch, and we provided a survey to residents so they could weigh in on where they wanted a kayak launch, what their expectations were for that. I didn't see any surveys for whether we wanted a pickleball court or not. And the community center second story was brought up because I mentioned it at the last forum, because there's a 5-year capital improvements plan, and the tennis center was not ahead of the community center second story. This was something to be looked at and discussed. Nobody ever said that they were going to close the community center. I certainly didn't say that, and I know I wouldn't do that without dialogue from the community and a plan in terms of, do we want to proceed with this and how we want to proceed with this. So, whatever was said was convoluted by others who, want to make people confused about things. Let me just say there's no confusion there. I would not be voting to close the community center unless that was something the residents wanted, if they were ready to move forward with a second story. As far as the pickleball center, I'm not prepared to move forward with this until 96th Street Park is completed and we review whether or not we want a second story on the community center. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Paul. Jeff Rose, please.
Thank you. So first of all, in 2006, I believe, the previous mayor, Charles Burkett, had the opportunity to do a 2- and 3-story community center, and that was shot down by him. So the previous commission also had the opportunity to buy the property next to the park and double the size of the park. That was shot down by the same mayor and the two people sitting next to me. In regards to the funds for the pickleball court, the funds cannot be used from the pickleball court for Abbott Avenue drainage. Those are tourism funds. And if anyone that's been following what's been going on for the last 2 years, this was in the Gazette, this was at a special meeting in Parks and Rec, and multiple times at Park and Rec, and multiple times at our commission meeting. It's a first floor open rec space, a second floor resident gym, and a rooftop pickleball court. So it's a multiple building for multiple age people. The building at the community center is only 13 years old. It cannot support a second story. Even Martha Olchek, who was there during the development of it, stated this. The building at the tennis center is 50 years old. It's hardly ever used. So it needs to be replaced to a multi-function sports complex. That is what the residents want. There's no other way for the community center to be built without it being shut down. I use the community center with my family all the time. Not anybody else pretty much up here can say they even go there nearly as much as me. The residents that have young families, the seniors that do programming, the people from the after school do not want the community center shut down. Let me be very clear. So that is why I support the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, you made direct reference to two people on the dais. Ms. Paul asked for an opportunity to respond. 30 seconds for Ms. Paul.
Yes, we were not offered to purchase the property next to the 96th Street Park, and nobody said we're going to close the community center. So there's no, if I'm elected, I am not closing the community center, okay?
Mr. Murphy, I have an email that shows they received it. Am I allowed to provide it if people are lying on the dais?
I'll give you a opportunity to respond if you're called out on something.
Yeah, well,
Hold on.
there's an email that shows to the town commission, and Charles Burkett and I will, if you let me get on my phone, I will read it out loud. Because you can't just let people lie on the days if they're going to be up here.
We'll give a moment for clarification later.
Excuse me, are you calling me a liar?
Yes, there was an email to all the commissioners about purchasing the property next to the park for $5 million.
Really?
Would you like me to go on my phone and pull it up?
You can go on your
There was
watch.
there was no offer.
You have messages on your watch as well, Jeff.
We were considering 2 properties to purchase, and at the time, we were not sure whether we could purchase them. And also, we were considering another property for a purchase of a kayak launch on 88th.
You just said you never had the opportunity.
I didn't
Okay,
say I didn't say we didn't have the opportunity.
We've clarified that now. We're going to move on to Ms. Velasquez.
Dr. Murphy, I just have a request.
Yes.
We turned off our phones. Can we ask the vice mayor to turn off his
Yeah, you
watch?
shouldn't be using digital communications
Because
on the.
people will look at his watch and then write a note.
Jesus.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Please, you
It's
know
not
the-
off.
Do you expect anything
It's not off.
from Burkett supporters?
Wait a minute. You know the intent of the rules here, and don't undermine them if you're communicating using your communications on your watch.
Well, he is coming out here
Just
and
please,
calling people
please,
liars.
Let it aside.
So,
Ms.
your
Velasquez,
husband does it every day on the dais. Excuse me.
Ms.
What
Velasquez,
is
you are
this?
not recognized. Stop it. I'll end this whole meeting. Stop it. When you get called upon, you can speak. All right. Now, Ms. Velasquez, you're recognized to respond to the original question, attending to the issue of pickleball in the tennis center and the second floor development. Go ahead.
Well, first, nobody ever talked about closing the community center. That is a lie. It never came up anywhere. So I'm not sure exactly where this comment is coming, but of course, we understand people are desperate to win this chair, and that's why they come out with these stories. But before doing any work to the community center, we would engage the community as we have always done. Example, on the November 20 ballot question, asking residents about the undergrounding of the power lines, or the many surveys and community outreach done for the 96th Street Park. What was never discussed was the tennis center. Also, there are ways to build without closing the pool, because I think what is being confused here is the community center itself and the pool. So I don't think if you're ever going to do any work in the community center, It's to make sure that the pool always stays open. And in terms of the pickleball, you know, people talk here about the funds at the tourist fund. But if there's not enough money in that tourist fund to finish that project, the monies will be coming from the general fund, which is where we would be taking the money to, the general fund reserve, that where the money would be coming to fix the Abbott Avenue drainage project and any stormwater projects in our town. So that's another false statement, because not all the money is in the tourist fund. People may want you to think that there's plenty of money in there, but there is not enough to build that tennis center. Thank you.
Mr. Gerardo Vildostigui, I'm sorry.
All right, this question got complicated. I want to try to make 2 points in response to it. And while I do think flooding is a very important issue, I'm going to, for the first part, just talk about recreational facilities, and then we'll talk a little bit about tourist tax. The first point, and I think this is what animated the first question, is that in this discussion of the pickleball center versus the community center, we've never had a side-by-side cost-benefit analysis of what the two projects would entail. This whole statistic about closing the community center for 2 years came out of nowhere. We have no discussion of would the pool have to be closed, would the beach care service continue? There's been no study of that. That sort of dropped out of the sky, and at the last meeting, people were saying, at the last commission meeting, please don't close the community center. There was no data to support this. We need to do that side-by-side comparison. That's all I would say. The pickleball project came out of nowhere too. I realize that Vice Mayor Rose really supports it, but we need to just do the math and see where we get our money's worth. That's all. About the tourist tax, I want to say this. I think there is more opportunity for using that money for other projects. We're not so locked in. Part of the constraint comes from our own town code, from section 69 and 70, and we have the power to change that. The other part comes from Florida statutes, and today I looked at the Florida statute that governs the tourist tax, and it makes all sorts of exceptions for public facilities. You can build things like car racetracks, and the reason why you can do that is because specific municipalities asked for a carve-out. We can ask our lobbyists in Tallahassee to try to change the law too if we have enough money. There's other possibilities there we haven't explored. So in that sense, maybe we could do something more with the money that deals with flooding and other problems.
Very good. Mr. Rose, you're asking to respond to whether you support the tennis center or not?
Well,
yes or
it's
no?
called a sports complex.
Okay, do you support that?
Absolutely.
Okay, then there's
That was
no
all my
question.
response.
That's what he said. All right, now we're going to go to the next question, which will actually have to do with stormwater. We're going to begin with Mr. Brunabend. It says, please speak to the funding allocated for the current stormwater projects and your ideas for funding future stormwater needs in this community.
So we have a stormwater problem. I don't think anyone up here will say that we don't. What this community needs to be willing to do is to all reach into our pockets and invest in our community. The $4.5 million that was set aside to do the Abbott Avenue project is not enough money. It came in more than double. There is not money to do that. We will need to rewrite a referendum to get approval to borrow money. I want everyone to understand when we borrow money, that means we pay it back in taxes over a 30-year period with interest. This is not free money. This is an example of why our water bills are higher, because we are borrowing money for water improvements that prior commissions had not been keeping up with, and we are running at a deficit. We are not a socialist town. We need to pay for our costs. Everyone, all taxpayers need to invest in their community, and if we're not willing to invest in our community, then we can't get these projects done. So I would encourage everyone to be prepared for a new ballot item, a new referendum to borrow money to fix our stormwater issues. And we're going to have to borrow more money to do the undergrounding. So I like that a lot of people talk about this and that, but the reality is we have to be willing to invest in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Brunabend. Mr. Cotto, on the issue of stormwater and funding.
Well, part of the problem, I think, sure, it came in higher than the expected cost, but this was approved over 2 years ago. If we wait another 2 years, it's probably going to double again. So part of the problem is the delays that have happened. So this is a stalled project, in my opinion. As far as the financing, there is some money available, and that could be started, and there is a lot more money coming in with the new developments that have been approved. So money will be coming into town. One of the ideas, and I don't know how possible this is trying to get the vendor, maybe to get the vendor involved in the financing. Maybe we can request some kind of financing from the person doing the project. I don't know if that's doable in a community, in a town, but I think we need to get a little creative as well, and not necessarily borrow every penny.
Very good. Mr. Forbes, can you speak to the issue now?
Yeah. We did slow it down. It didn't happen. And we could sit up here and blame the current commission, the past commission, whatever you want to do. But we have a major problem right now, and we do not have the money to pay for it. I've never heard of what Mr. Cotto's talking about. I'm not sure any developer or builder ever has, but if there's a way to do it and be creative, every opportunity and everyone's voice should be part of this. But what we really need to do is find out exactly what it's going to cost this town, exactly how much money we have to borrow, and take it to the people and explain it to them so they can decide how important it is. And again, like I said in my opening remarks, what are our alternatives if we don't do it? We are in big trouble if we don't do this. But yes, it is going to cost us money, and it is going to cost us in taxes because we're going to have to borrow the money. There's no other way around it. There's not just going to drop out of the sky, someone's going to lend us the money. We are going to have to borrow it, and it's going to cost us in some taxes. And I will be extremely transparent with everybody. We will not hide it, and this will be the #1 priority of the new commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. And as you mentioned, Mr. Cotto, about his public-private partnership idea, I'll give him an opportunity.
As far as that, again, that's an idea. But I think if we're going to borrow any kind of money, it needs to go to the people again, and we need to be very specific what the money's going to be used for. We're not going to borrow up $10 million for projects. We need to be very specific what the money's going to be borrowed for.
Very good. All right, thank you. Mr. Landsman.
Again, we've talked about stormwater for a long time. I know that at least the last 5 commissions, this has been an issue, perhaps even before that. So for this to be an item that somehow has been stalled by this current commission is absolutely incorrect. If a prior commission, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, had actually taken action to go out to get RFPs and RFQs to find someone to do the construction, it wouldn't cost $8+ million for this one singular project on Abbott Avenue. It could have been done before this current commission. We have moved forward to look for funding. We have done the RFPs and RFQs to find out who and how much it would cost. And yes, $8 million plus. Stormwater remediation is a major priority. At the last commission meeting, we talked about ways to fund this by going to referendum, yes, to float a bond. And will our community residents allow that? That could be done in November. We also talked about funding it through the general fund reserves, making borrowing from those reserves to go to stormwater. So this commission has addressed this, has worked to get this done. Unfortunately, because of the extraordinary cost and the inability to fund that, we have not been able to actually put a shovel in the ground, but we will if we continue this current commission.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Paul?
Thank you. So based on the comments I've heard up here, I want to just say that taxpayers have invested in this community. We had, 10 years ago, there was a water sewer project where the town borrowed $32 million to fix our water sewer system. We're still paying for that, and we're paying for that through our water bills. What I want to say, too, because I also heard prior commissions didn't take action. Let me tell you, I sat on 3 prior commissions, 2 which both took action. On one commission, we did a study for the Abbott Drainage Project, and we decided not to move forward, but we went and we went to the state legislature to get funding to help us with that. On the last commission, we did move forward. We did another study that was more in depth, and then they were in the design phase when we left office. So it was up to this commission to continue the design phase. We had, and before leaving office, we had allocated $2 million, which is the cost we were given at the time of the study, and there was a matching grant for that amount, specific to Abbott drainage. The people of Abbott Avenue have suffered long enough, and it's time that we take care of this issue. This will also help us determine the other areas in town that are more vulnerable, and we can further fix the flooding issues there as we get to them. But fixing the Abbott flooding is the first step, and that will help alleviate the flooding in the other streets. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Rose, please.
Thank you. So, like you said, and you guys are here tonight, it was approved for a funding, and it was studied. This commission had it fully designed and then priced it out. Once we priced it out, what was priced came in at was 10 to 12 million. At the last February commission meeting, I already went ahead and did this as my discussion item. I've already put on there, and it was approved by our commission this month. To come up in November, should and do the residents want to borrow up to $10 million for a revenue bond for this project? I personally will vote for this. I do not believe in emptying or borrowing from our general fund to empty our bank account for this project, but I fully support borrowing money for this project. In the meantime, what this commission has done to try and help alleviate some of it, we purchased additional backups, 2 backup additional store pumps, which have already been in use. We have a in-house the street sweeper to continually clean the storm drains 3 times a week. And we have also done legislation to raise the dunes throughout town. We're taking the infrastructure, the flooding, everything in our possibility in our hands to do it, because what Jared said, Mr. Brunabend, is the #1 issue we have is going to be flooding and what we can do. But we need to be fiscally responsible, and I think we should borrow the funds to do it, but not empty our bank account to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Velasquez, please.
Thank you. Well, we clearly can see there's a lack of understanding of exactly what happens in our town. As some candidates claim that the water bills are because just usage, when there's a huge debt that was taken out for the water sewer project. In terms of being able to do this project without borrowing, we don't need to borrow money. Our town has a very hefty reserve of $17 million. So in order for us to be doing this project, we have a grant plus the matching, which was $4 million. So all we need is an additional $4 million that we can take from our town reserves and use it to fix this problem. So for people to be saying here that there's no way to fix this unless we take money and borrow money, that is absolutely false. It's just that they don't want to use this money because this money is for the purpose of using it for the deficit that they'll have to build that tennis center. And that's the truth. So we need to first prioritize the Abbott Avenue drainage project that will alleviate the flooding situation in our entire town. And that should be priority #1. I think that's the only thing that we agree with some of the people that spoke here earlier, is that that is priority #1. Before any tennis center, before putting the second floor on the community center, before doing any other project, we need to fix this flooding problem, as this affects all our residents. In one way or another, it affects everyone. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Bildastegui.
Excuse me. She called me out. Can I talk for 30 seconds?
I didn't call
I
anybody
didn't hear any
out.
names being
I
mentioned.
didn't call anybody out.
You'll have opportunities to speak all night. Mr. Bildastegui, please.
Thank you. So I want to say just off the bat, I think the Abbott Avenue drainage project is the #1 most important infrastructure project in the town. And for anybody who's not aware, it affects much more than the residents of Abbott Avenue. Because that's the lowest point in the town, the water that collects there is kind of flowing from everywhere else. So improving the drainage there actually helps the entire town. I want to make one point that really needs to be made. As Mr. Brunabend and Mr. Forbes said, we don't have the money right now. But the reason why we don't have the money and why we haven't borrowed it has everything to do with the inaction of the current commission. They had an opportunity in that November election that we just had, November 7th, 2023, to put a specific borrowing item for Abbott Avenue on the ballot, and they did not. That whole referendum was a series of power grabs by the current commission trying to extend their terms, trying to make sure that the mayor could be elected with a minority vote, and instead of focusing on this particular problem. The borrowing question we had on that referendum was for a blank check for borrowing, and it did not mention Abbott Avenue. So we could have had the money now, and we could have started. I also think there are some other avenues we should explore, though. One of them, Part of the flooding seems to come from the Florida Department of Transportation. Every time they resurface A1A, that gets a little bit higher and more water flows down to Abbott. We should demand that they pay for part of our drainage project. The tourist tax is a significant untapped resource, and as I mentioned in my earlier answer, I do think we have some ability to play with the definition of public facilities and also to get our lobbyists and our lawyers trying to free up some of that tourist tax money. Right now, okay, well, I'll leave it there.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Brunabin and Mr. Forbes, your names were mentioned. If you choose to respond, okay, thank you. Mr. Bloomstein, you're the final answer tonight on stormwater and funding.
So as I said earlier, my number one priority in office is to get flooding work funded and started to resolve the Abbott Avenue flooding and flooding issues identified in the July 1st, 2023 forum. But the first thing we have to start is we have to acknowledge our flooding problem within our comprehensive plan so we can get more funding from the state. We need to find creative and legal ways to deal with this. And like I said, flooding is my number one priority, and we need to have plan, execute, and deliver. And I think by having that in our comprehensive plan, that we acknowledge that we have a flooding issue, we can have our lobbyists lobby for more funding from the state to alleviate that. Thank you so much.
Very good. Okay, one of your residents at least thinks there's other issues. So we have parking, and I'll start with Mr. Cotto on this question. I'm going to read it in its entirety. It's a little bit of an essay, but I think it gives you the flavor of what they're looking for. Surfside has become a traffic nightmare during this past few years. The right lane on both Collins and Harding is a stopping lane for delivery trucks. No matter the time or day, you can count on not being able to drive on that lane. Sometimes is the usual delivery trucks, sometimes is moving trucks, sometimes just regular people double parking. South of the business district, it looks like everyone is too lazy to go up a driveway. In the business district, people know that they can double park while they go into the bank or anywhere. For the past 1 year, going up and down those lanes every day, at least twice, I have never encountered that lane free all the way from 88 to 96. This needs to end. What are you going to do about it? Mr. Cotto.
Wow. Parking is an issue in town, we know. We go to CVS and you got to go around 10 times to find a spot. As far as the double parking, I think we need to get the police to enforce and ticket the double parkers to begin with. That would eliminate a lot of that. It would keep the traffic flowing. One idea I've always thought about is surface parking, because I don't believe we need a parking garage. And if we were to ever need a parking garage, it has to go to the people and the residents. It's their decision, it's their town. It's not our town up here. So we would have to take that to a referendum. But surface parking to me has to be the solution, just with the prices of real estate. I know it's not necessarily doable, but I would definitely start enforcing the double parking and try to maybe redesign the current parking somehow. Try to benefit. Eliminating 16, 17, 18 parking spots that was recently brought to up here, I don't think is going to be the solution. You don't, by eliminating those 16 spots, all you're creating is more of a parking issue. So that was done with the idea of making it more pedestrian friendly. That's not the way to make it pedestrian friendly.
Oh, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Cotto, for your views. Mr. Forbes.
I think Mr. Cotto's right in a lot of things that he just said. How about that?
All right.
Good.
Enforcement. First, second, and third. There are not enough police or others out there writing tickets for people that are stopping, people that are double parking, people that are dropping people off, Ubers that are waiting to pick up, Lyft that's waiting to pick up. It's just wrong. You can't do it. You shouldn't be allowed to do it. We should have a lot more people out there. And I also do agree that getting rid of 16 spots is, while the walkability is very important, I just think that is not the way to do it. You cannot lose spaces that we desperately need in this town. There are not enough spaces in this town as it is. And as I said in my opening, walking 4 or 5 blocks after you've gone to Publix or CVS or driving around and around to get a parking spot is not what any of us want. So enforcement first, would not be looking at getting rid of the 16 spots on Harding, and truly enforcement. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Landsman.
Parking, parking, parking. I said that 2 years ago, and here I am again, parking, parking, parking. One thing I did say 2 years ago, and I'll say it again, on my watch, we will not build in Surfside a parking garage. I don't support that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it doesn't add to the community that we have currently. But traffic is a nightmare. No kidding. Parking is a nightmare. No kidding. So let's come up with solutions. We hear this, it's so bad, but no one says, here's how we fix it. This current commission wants to increase and improve walkability, but it's a challenge because if we lose 16 spots to let people have a space to walk in our downtown, oh, it's bad because we lose 16 spaces. You can't have it all ways. We've got to figure out a solution. Help us. Don't just say it's bad. Don't just say I can't find a space behind CVS. Come up with solutions, please. This town was built and envisioned 100 years ago. It's not currently feasible the way it was designed in current modern-day Miami-Dade traffic. We are a superhighway on A1A, both directions. So help us, help you. Let's come up with some solutions. If we don't want to lose 16 spaces, okay, we leave downtown the way it is, but then we have an issue with our pedestrians being able to utilize the businesses that require people to come in and out of their stores. So help us with solutions. Traffic's a nightmare, no doubt. Parking is a nightmare, no doubt. But again, no parking garage on my watch.
Thank you, Mr. Landsman. Now, Ms. Paul, your views, please.
Thank you. So I'd like to address a few of these subjects that have been brought up. Number one, I do not support getting rid of the 16 parking spaces to increase the space for the sidewalk cafes. The walkability issue is real, and part of it has to do with there's not enough space because of all the cafe tables. Aside from that, what I'd like to address too is the trucks closing down lanes in Collins since the Champlain collapse. Most of the buildings do not allow large trucks to come into their driveways, so they do have to hire off-duty police and use one of the lanes. In our building, because I live in a condo, we request when people are moving in that they use a truck 22 feet or less, and that is allowed in our driveway, and that alleviates blocking that lane. The other issue, I've sat on different commissions, and we have addressed the parking issues. It used to be seasonal. I think with more of the people moving here permanently, it's become a bigger issue. We've had the police step it up. We've changed parking rates. I think what we need to do is find a way to have a variable parking rate so that people that are not patronizing our businesses and are not residents pay a higher rate to park in our lots. And we need the enforcement of the police, especially with the double parking. Cars are allowed to drop off on Harding Avenue. They are allowed to double park to drop off, but they're not allowed to double park to shop. And we need to enforce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Rose.
So I'm going to tell you what this commission has done. We've raised parking rates as much as we can. So basically, we set it as high as possible to pay per hour. After that, if you were to set it any higher, it'd be cheaper just to get a parking ticket if you were maxed out. What we've also done is we put in front of CVS and Starbucks the resident-only sticker parking. We've also hired community service aides, which can be used for tourism funds, who have been giving out tickets for downtown. But I'm taking a little bit of a different angle here, because I've spoken with many police chiefs about this, and our former one, Chief Euro. And one of the things that he said is the number one problem we have from him was double parking, not the parking issue. Parking issue is a problem, so is double parking. It's a double-edged sword. I've never hidden. I fully support removing all parking spaces downtown, expanding the eating experience, more cafe, but there's a catch. We have to be willing to walk. We have to be willing to bike. We have to be use electric scooters, golf carts, whatever it is, drop off. We have to make that commitment. If we want this to be a more walkable, friendly town to not have the parking problem, that is up to us residents, because you're going to have patrons coming and you're going to have residents. And we put in the resident parking, and the residents are the one that we care about most. But I think we need to walk more downtown and use other means of transportation. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Velasquez.
Well, I think that first we need to engage our police to properly have people not double park. Last week, there was a police officer on Harding Avenue, and he would just put the siren on, the car would move 2 steps, and he would put the siren on again, the car would move another 2 steps. It was a total disrespect by this car to our police officer, and our police officer never got out and actually went and gave a ticket to this car. I think there needs to be more enforcement. There needs to be sending out the right message that we will not be tolerating you double parking on our street and disrespecting our police. That's unacceptable. I think that, I don't know where we've raised parking fees, but that definitely needs to be raised. I believe our parking fees are still lower than even the Ball Harbor Mall, so that causes people to come over to our parking lot because it is cheaper to park here than it is to park across the street. So I think that we need to match their parking fee rates so that this way there is something equivalent and people are not deciding to come and park on our side. Another thing, I think that during my first term in commission, we gave our residents free parking in our parking lots, so that's not an issue for our residents. And a lot of people do like to walk to the downtown district area. In terms of eliminating 16 parking spaces, I honestly do not support that. I think there's other ways to widen our sidewalks without having to take parking spaces. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Vildastigui.
So I'm a little confused. The original question seemed to me to be mainly about A1A traffic, and then the conversation kind of grew into how do you feel about the parking garage. I'll say for the record, I also oppose building a parking garage and eliminating the spaces on Harding. But the question really was about double parking on Harding and other obstacles to traffic flow on that street. So I'm going to limit my answer to that. I think this is a good opportunity to toss out some interesting ideas. Looking at the design of the business district on Harding Avenue, it strikes me that the current bike lane we have is not good as a bike lane, and it also invites people to double park in it because they think they're getting out of the way, but they're still blocking the lane, and it's kind of a mess. One thing we should explore that I'd like to think about is the possibility of switching the parking and the bike lane. Oh, sorry. New York City does this. They have parking protected bike lanes where the bike lane is between the parking and the sidewalk. And that makes it much safer to bike and takes away that sort of half space where people think they can double park safely, but they're really still blocking traffic, and it makes part of a mess. I also think we need to address the problem of delivery trucks specifically, and this is going to maybe something that we need to ask our lobbyists to do something at the state level to take on companies like Amazon and Uber. If they have repeat offenses for blocking traffic, the company should have to pay for that somehow. And as a small town, we can't do that, but we can kind of lead that conversation. I think that would be interesting too. I'd also like to see more promotion of alternative transportation. On this, I'm with Mr. Rose. One thing we could do is try to expand City Bike in the town. There are a couple of dense urban neighborhoods nearby in the East Island of Bay Harbor and in North Beach, people who use the Surfside Business District. If we could get more of them coming on City Bike, that would be a really good thing. And we only have one station that serves the entire business district. We could have more.
Okay, Mr. Bloomstein.
I'm well aware of the parking and traffic issues. I live on Collins Avenue, and I frequent the business district where I feel sometimes it reminds me of back in my college days. I have to pick up somebody and take them to their parking spot so I can get their spot. So parking is another big issue facing our town that has plagued us for years, if not decades. We need to keep our parking for our residents and those shopping in our stores and restaurants. No more contractor parking will be tolerated. No more overnight parking in our lots. We need better and more timely enforcement and time limits for parking in our lots and on our streets. We already have video cameras in our lots and should utilize them to monitor vehicles and then ticket or tow them during peak times as necessary. We also need to remove double park delivery vehicles from our through lanes so as to minimize the traffic congestion throughout our town. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bloomstein. Mr. Bruneman.
So I think we have 2 topics here. We have Harding Collins, and then we have parking issues around town. 94th to 96th Street, this is our commercial district. This is our node. I think it's very important for any town, especially a small urban town like ours, to really maximize what our commercial district could be. I think we need to have meter maids that do not allow any double parking, whether it is a car, FedEx, Amazon, DHL, whatever. They need to be fined so that we teach them not to do it. I'm a fan of ticketing all along Harding and Collins. But I think more importantly, we need to figure out how to slow down traffic. 94th to 96th Street should be a pedestrian experience, not a vehicular experience. We need to slow it down so people matter more than cars. I believe cafe tables are great for town. I think making wider sidewalks are great for town. Anyone that has studied urbanism and how towns are built, it should be built around the human being and not parking spots. Now, when we get to parking spots, we have a supply-demand issue. I think we need to do a full parking study, an analysis to determine how many spaces are needed in our commercial district, when they are most needed, and how we could potentially come up with solutions. There are professional companies that do this for a living in cities across America.
Thank you, Mr. Bruneman, and thank everybody for your comments on parking. I think the citizens got a good dose of your views. This is good. Mr. Forbes, we're going to start this next question. It's another two-part where I'm kind of collapsing these because of time, but I'll read them both. It has on the same topic that we're dealing with building and zoning, permitting, development of houses. Both questions address that. It says, if you are elected, do you think you have the right to deny someone to build a house because you don't like the way it looks, even if it meets all the requirements? I've heard a lot of talk about houses being too big or too boxy. In other words, do you feel your personal preferences should supersede town requirements, or would you change town requirements to match personal aesthetic preferences? And then another citizen writes in saying, some people in town have complained that they do not like the boxy, more modern style houses that are being built in the neighborhood. Do you think it is the right of the planning and zoning and or commission to require certain style of housing? If so, how would you decide what style? Are you aware of any provisions in the zoning code that allow the town to dictate a specific style? What is that style? So these are the questions. And I think we'll start with Mr. Forbes, trying to
Great.
let the citizens know your views.
90 seconds is not enough time for this question.
No, I know.
And you're starting with the wrong guy because I'm on the planning and zoning board. So that's really not sure I'm the guy they want to hear from. I think over the last 2 years, I have two other commissioners here in the front row, that we have done a very good job on trying to interpret what the codes are and what our rights are and what we're supposed to be doing. I think it's very hard not to look at things and take a personal approach on what you think, but that's just not the right approach. You have to do based on what the code says. We have done, I think, an incredible job on the P&Z board over 2 years not to bring our personal views into it, not to come in with ideas that we might or might not like. I don't like every house that I see. I really don't. But it's not my right to say that I don't like this facade or this material or anything else. The codes have been written long before I got here, and I am for enforcing the codes that we have today until they have been rewritten and changed, and then they need to be enforced by the codes that are written by professionals, not by the people sitting up here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Mr. Landsman.
I will agree that this is much more than a 90-second conversation. I've spent 4 years, 2 on planning and zoning, now 2 on the commission, dealing with this issue. So it takes a lot more time. One of the things I'll say is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And what I get frustrated when I hear, well, I don't like that, so it shouldn't be allowed, is not the way you approach that. My taste is going to be different than someone else's taste, and taste is not something you can force on someone else. There's also discussion at P&Z about that these discussions are not about popularity. It's not, do you like it? Is it popular? And you have to look at code, zoning, our design review guidelines, which are being updated as we speak. It's not complete yet, but those are the tools that the Planning and Zoning Board can utilize to make sure that a house, a new house, a renovation of a house fits within our community. But this is a big discussion. Yes, in the last 5, 6, 8 years, we've had bigger houses built, But this is code that's existed well before our current commission, 30 feet from the crown of the road, the same setbacks. We have not changed anything to allow anything larger for our homes that are being built or renovated. So yes, love your neighbor as you love yourself, but don't necessarily say, I don't like it, therefore you can't have it. It's about your choices and your options as you build or renovate a home.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzman. Ms. Paul.
Yes, so I would like to first state that zoning code regulates the size or square footage of what can be built, and the design guidelines influence the style of what can be built. The two have to work together in order to be compatible with the neighborhood. What I will say, what's currently been done, there have been 9 zoning code changes so far by this current commission, which is why they don't need variances and why you can see things being built bigger, because they've allowed more projections of into the setbacks, and that is part of what we're seeing. But essentially, it's not so much that you can't tell someone you can't tell someone what can or cannot be built. They have that right, but as a town, we have the right to be sure that it meets the compatibility of the neighborhood and meets what our zoning code and our design guidelines state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Rose?
I could definitely talk about this one for more than 90 seconds. So home sizes haven't changed in the last 20 years. The previous commission, this commission, nobody's changed the size of the homes. The reason they can't change the size of the homes is because it would be against the law, and the town attorneys have told us that. The same town attorney, the same town planner, Walter Keller, and now Judith Frankel, and the same building official. It's the same people interpreting the code. So nothing's changed from the previous commission and this commission. In regards to the projections, those have been the same that were in place except for what was with the zoning in progress. I'm currently involved with total 19 projects. 17 of those were approved on their previous commission. We've had a total of 55 homes approved in the last 4 years. I have all the addresses here. Only 27 of them have already been built, half of them. Construction is going to happen in this town no matter who's sitting up at the dais. And it's going to be most likely the same size, whether it's homes, condos being built, those have stayed the same size. So construction is going to happen, progress is going to happen. The compatibility is the biggest thing, and we can't control FEMA. The homes are starting 5 feet off the ground. Whether we have a home that's modern or Mediterranean, we don't want to just eliminate one of the styles because every home would look exactly the same. And that's not what makes Surfside special. It's the unique character of homes. But we can't control FEMA, and we can't control the fact that they're sitting 5 to 6 feet off the ground. What we have done is create an understory, which gives more light and air to your neighbor. But that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Velasquez?
Design review guidelines. That is what we need to work on, because the excuse cannot always be, if it meets zoning, you must approve. And that's what we hear a lot at these P&Z meetings. And it's not just about the size of the house. There's all sorts of other issues that are happening here. The raising of the entire lot instead of just the house. The understories, as just mentioned, which is against our code. I don't even know how that passed. When our charter says you can only build 2 stories. An understory is a story. So that's, if it has a floor, if it has a ceiling, it's a story. And then we're allowing to put 2 stories on top of that. So that clearly conflicts with our charter. How that was passed, I don't know. So if we don't look at these kind of problems and address them, but the main problem here is to go by the design review guidelines, which would bring houses that are compatible with the rest of our town, not these cookie cutter box houses that are being built right now. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Velasquez. Mr. Vildastegui.
So I'll say off the bat, Surfside is a uniquely beautiful place, and beautiful places don't happen by accident. They require thought and very often governmental regulation. What I do want to say is that I don't favor changing the zoning code as regards size or square footage. That much should be clear. But I do think that the choices that are being presented to you are really leaving something out. It's not a matter of either personal preferences get inflicted on people or else by right development, and those are the only two options. If those are the only two options, the whole structure we have for the Planning and Zoning Board wouldn't make sense. Our Planning and Zoning Board exists because the idea is you have experts, architects, engineers, who look at the design review guidelines and importantly apply the criteria, one of which is compatibility with the surroundings. It's not just any old person's taste, that's why we have experts. And those experts are there to be guardians of the community, of the legacy of our architectural community, which is beautiful. That doesn't mean we limit development, but it means we make sure development follows the spirit of the community. That's an opportunity, that's a whole middle ground that these two stark extremes are completely omitting. I also have to say, I think this is an issue that has to be addressed. This is one of the issues that brings to the forefront the conflict of interest that we currently have, where a sitting commissioner, the vice mayor, is also the largest developer in the residential district. It's very much in his interest to have by right development because it means projects can move faster and possibly at lower cost. That's a real problem. We need to have regulators who are not also the ones who are supposed to be regulated.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Goldosky. Before going to the next question, I believe Mr. Rose was referenced specifically. If you want
That's
30
me.
seconds to respond.
That's me. So he stated it, but the facts actually speak for themselves. 17 of the homes that I'm building were approved under the previous commission. Only 2 I'm building now are by myself. So when you talk about conflicts of interest, there's less happening. The zoning hasn't changed, the size hasn't changed. The only thing you've seen is my expertise that has been in hand, because if you look what happened on Harding Avenue, we have now a new code that allows less concrete for driveways. So constantly my expertise in this is being referenced as I've spoken with many of the sitting people up here about questions in zoning.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bloomstein.
Thank you. Design review is the key to get away from cookie cutter box housing. We have a section in our code that addresses architectural styles. The P&Z board are volunteers and are appointed by the commission. We are blessed with many qualified residents and are thankful for their service. We need to appoint people that share our vision. Any proposed changes should always be carefully considered with residents and other stakeholders to ensure a balanced and fair approach. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bloomstein. Mr. Bronabend?
Sure. First, I'll say that I do not think the P&Z board should be able to require a certain style. Today, in 2024, modern glass homes are not just popular in Surfside, but in most of South Florida. And 10 years from now, people could decide that they don't want windows on the front of their house. And if that's allowed, then I'm sure there's going to be people in this room that are going to complain about that too. I am big on property owners' rights. Everyone can design their own home that meets code and zoning, and your neighbor doesn't need to like it, the commission doesn't need to like it, but if it meets all the requirements, you as a property owner have the right to build the home. Same thing with the inside. You can go into a brand new house and not like how it's finished inside, but maybe that person likes it. I think a lot of people are misconstruing something up here is that Mr. Rose is not a developer, he is a general contractor. There are big differences, and maybe Google it sometime.
Okay, Mr.
I have 30,
Oh, okay.
home sizes have been able to be built like this for over 20 years. The fact of the matter is the value of the land has increased. 10 years ago, you couldn't build a 2-story house because the market didn't support it. Today, the market supports it. This is a supply-demand issue, and the homes can't be any bigger than that they were 20 years ago.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brenneman. Mr. Cotto.
Yeah, I think the original question was about limiting people's square footage, and absolutely not. You can't limit somebody as long as they're building according to code. But what I would recommend or push for is the Planning and Zoning and Design Review Board work with the builder, with the homeowner that's building, to design houses that respect your neighbors and don't just create features that impact your neighbors, whether it's drainage, whether it's, I don't know, lighting. You need to just respect the neighbors, and that's more important. But as far as limiting their square footage, no, it's not our call, as long as they build according to code. But we need to have a little respect for the neighbors.
Very good. Mr. Landsman begins this next round of questions. And it's a statement asking for your responses. It says, briefly, how do you define ecological resiliency? And what policies do you propose to implement resiliency in Surfside's coastal community? It's a little bit general, but I mean, 90 seconds.
It's 90 seconds. This is quite esoteric.
Your thesis statement in 90 seconds.
Yes. Our community is geographically between the bay and the ocean, in very close proximity. We have responsibilities, certainly, to ensure resiliency, to ensure our dune system is extremely important to us along the beach, of course. Every project that is approved has requirements to improve the dune that's in front of their condominium building. We've encouraged, as part of P&Z, now part of the commission, street trees for all of our communities, all of our buildings all of our new houses that are built in our town. Street trees, appropriate, then also Florida-friendly vegetation and shrubs to make sure that, again, we have species of plants that are important and allowed and thrive in Florida. So yes, resiliency is all about all of these issues, dunes, from dunes to the bay, stormwater retention, stormwater movement, and it's something that I know I'm committed to, but I'm not necessarily an expert in how to improve where we are, but I'll listen to anyone's ideas about how to make it better.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Landsman. Ms. Paul.
Yeah. So I just want to take this back to the zoning for a second, and I want to state, as far as resiliency goes, the greenest house is the house already built. I would like to inspire and try to encourage homeowners to, renovate their homes, to do the additions to your homes, to preserve the character of the neighborhood by fixing your homes, raising your homes, whatever it takes to make them more resilient. But going back to the zoning code, there have been 9 zoning code changes so far with this current commission. So to state that no zoning changes have been made and everything has been built according to the previous code is not factual. But back to resiliency. I've supported resiliency on my previous commissions. We have the 305. There was a 305 resiliency plan. We started a resiliency fund, and we used to do a lot of beach cleanups. I think these are things I'd like to initiate again. I'd like to also look into having the town be the model for resiliency. There were plastic cups handed around earlier. There's plastic bottles here. I think that if the town takes the initiative to show the community that we can be more resilient in our own facilities, that will, go a long way. And also, I'd like to also see how the town can initiate composting, because that's also a wonderful way to help the environment. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Rose, resiliency policies.
Yes. So one of the things that this commission has done is we've required all dunes to be raised significantly. I believe they're going 2 to 3 feet higher. Solar panels, I've always been a big proponent of solar panels. I think we should encourage all solar panels. One of the things this commission did, and I encourage everyone to take a little bit of a walk there, we required seawalls now to be at either 8 or 10 feet, 8 minimum up to 10 feet from the base flood elevation. I encourage everyone to walk to 88th and Carlisle and look at the town seawall and look to your right and see how much higher seawalls have to be now. What we're trying to do in this town is protect this town. We need to build a wall around the town to keep the water out. We also have the water that's coming up from the bottom. So I would love to have seen a way to have rainwater be collected, but the problem is Dade County doesn't let you put the tanks underground, because once you hit 2 feet, you're already at the water table. So it's resiliency, it's understories, it's solar panels, it's it's raising the seawalls. If we want to be here for long term, we need to build for resiliency, and I think that's a part of it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Velasquez.
I think in terms of ecological resiliency, I think the question is more towards vegetation, resiliency with our dunes, which I agree we have required new development to raise the dunes, which creates a barrier for stormwater surge, sea level surge. In terms of vegetation, I completely support even putting more roundabouts with more trees, beautifying our town, and at the same time, it collects extra water that comes from a large storm. Rainstorms. Kind of got stuck on this one. I'm not too with resiliency, so I'm sorry about this question, but I think there's several things that we can do. Also, like mentioned earlier, regarding the sea walls, and that's it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ms. Velasquez. Mr. Vildastigi.
Thank you. So when people talk about resiliency, there's really two separate sets of concerns that have to be addressed separately. One is mitigation of harm from sea level rise, and many of the answers have spoken to that, things like raising seawalls. But the other part of ecological resiliency that also needs attention is addressing the root causes of the ecological crisis that we face. And that is something that the current administration has been terrible about. I was interviewed by the reporter from the Biscayne Times, and there's an article where you can read about this. I was saying that one of the distinguishing features of the current commission has been their absolute hostility toward any sort of environmental regulation. They repealed a ban on gas leaf blowers that was instituted during the Deitch administration, which made Surfside one of the national leaders in keeping the air clean and in fighting climate change. They got rid of that. There's been a full-out war eliminating the sustainability position from the Planning and Zoning Board. It's been a very difficult 2 years from the environmental side. I would like to bring these issues back into the conversation. Surfside used to give away trees to people. In my backyard, I have a beautiful native green buttonwood that was part of a tree giveaway. We've had nothing like that in the last 2 years. So I want to bring these things back into the conversation. They have been excluded for ideological reasons, and that's been a serious problem. The climate emergency plan that the Deitch administration signed on to has been completely neglected, despite comments by Mayor Danziger at the last debate. That plan called for us to ally ourselves with other coastal communities like Virginia Beach, other vulnerable places. Together, we have a very powerful voice, and we should be using it. That has been completely absent from our town conversation, and I want to bring that topic back into the conversation.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Blumstein.
No more fake grass. But with resiliency, I'm going to go back again to flooding. We have to acknowledge that we have a flooding problem in our town and put it in the comprehensive plan. We need to have more pumps. We need to elevate seawalls to reduce flooding, and we need bigger drains and pipes. Flooding is my #1 priority. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Bronabin.
Sound like a broken record here. Stormwater management plan is the most important thing that I've talked about. It includes not just figuring out how to make infrastructure improvements, but it includes the continued increase of dune sizes and seawalls, anything we can do to protect from the outside. Someone up here mentioned renovating homes. I'm all for renovating homes. I renovated a home. I don't think that there are many people up here that understand the issue with the FEMA 50% rule. A lot of these homes at some point are not going to be able to be renovated. They're going to be too low, and construction costs continue to go up, whereby FEMA will not allow you to improve your house. That's hence the 50% rule. You can only spend 50% on your construction based on the appraised value of the home, not including the land. So while I am for renovating homes, I think the reality is as we go forward, as Surfside moves forward, which is something we need to do, we need to realize that some of these homes will not be able to be saved.
Okay, Mr. Bruderman. Mr. Cotto.
There's a lot of good ideas up here as far as, protecting the environment and so forth. I think the beach cleanups can be a great family fun day. Instead of having all these family fun days, let's turn that into a family fun day. Let's bring the experts that really know what we can do with this size of a town on our beach, in our neighborhoods. Bring the experts in. Let's see what are the best ideas they can put forward. Let's educate the kids and teach them what are the things that we can do to make everything sustainable. And I think that's what we need to focus on. Because all the other ideas we heard up here, sure, they're great. But yeah, I think education is a big part of the issue.
Very good. Mr. Forbes.
You stole my number one. What? I copied you. Okay. Going last is pretty much 10 people up here giving great ideas. The beach cleanup, the composting, the raising of the dunes that the commissions have done a great job mandating that has been done. The biggest thing would be the seawalls. I'm building a house myself, and I have a 10-foot seawall. And when you look down 88th Street and you see it, you see the difference of who's going to be in good shape and who's not going to be in good shape when that time comes. The raising of the seawalls will be big when it comes to all these new homes that everyone's talking about, or renovating existing homes, whatever you feel like that you want to do when your time is there. So the electric leaf blowers, I like that idea. There is no reason we should have gas leaf blowers today. There is absolutely no reason for that. Electric leaf blowers should be mandatory in this town and all towns surrounding this area. So I'm not going to be able to add much that everyone else didn't already add over the last 10 minutes. So that's it. Thanks.
Very good, very good. Now, for our last question before we do the final round, and I know we're running a little bit over time, but I realize you have a large group running for office, so I want to give everybody a chance. But we had several questions in here that speak to the divisiveness in the community. I mean, there's talk in here about, what are your current activities that demonstrate your engagement in with diverse members of the Surfside and Greater Miami area community. There's other questions talking about, what will you do? Will you ensure the Surfside community that you will not engage in disrespectful behavior? It's been disgraceful. We must respect each other, differences at all times. There's a question in here about Pride Month. There's a lot of issues here speaking to divisiveness in the community. And I just want to take a little bit of liberty here as your moderator. I had the opportunity at one time to serve on the Community Relations Board for Miami-Dade County. And I know other communities have replicated what has been a 50-year success story for Miami-Dade County, having a Community Relations Board, which came into being after the McDuffie riots. And it's always available to resolve different issues that come up in the community where you have different issues, different ethnic groups, religious groups. They're represented on the Community Relations Board to resolve matters for the community. And my question I would just like to ask all of you to respond to is, would you consider the creation of a Community Relations Board for the town of Surfside, or to engage with the Community Relations Board of Miami-Dade County to heal this community and bring you all together? And I begin that question with Ms. Paul.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Murphy, for that excellent recommendation. I had not heard of the Community Relations Board, and I would fully support that. I would like to implement that because the divisiveness in the community, to me, is a major issue that we've had. It's never been this bad. That's what I've been hearing on the campaign trail. I speak to residents who have been here, anywhere from 5 years to 50 years, and they have never seen it like it is in these past 2 years. And it's really sad because Surfside is a beautiful community. I grew up here. We're diverse, we're accepting, we're inclusive, and something has happened with this current commission where they've shut people out, they've silenced residents who come here to voice their opinions. And there's also been accusations against residents who try to take action on things they disagree with. And, residents have been, I speak about that in my closing a little bit, but, thank you for this opportunity to speak about it now, because, residents have been labeled anti-Semitic by their neighbors. This is wrong, and this is not who we are as a town. So I want to change that. That is a #1 priority for me, aside from the infrastructure issues we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Rose.
Yes. So, first of all, I'm going to touch on a few things. So, I supported Pride Month as an elected official now, and I attended the first one with my family, and I was the moderator for the second one. I wish we could have civility in this town and on the dais, but it goes both ways between elected officials and people standing at the podium there. It's unfortunate that one of the people running has stated that they will stop serving kosher food at the events. That is the definition of divisiveness and is disgusting. We talk about trying to run an effective meeting. The only time people have been escorted out of meetings when they don't follow the rules. And I ask, somebody who's running for office says he's going to end meetings at 11 o'clock and he's not going to throw anyone out of the meeting. So what happens if somebody's standing at the podium just talking for 20 minutes? You're just going to let them go, or 30 minutes or 45? Nothing will get done. So you say, well, what do you mean? Well, I went back to previous agendas. When they left office, the previous mayor had 29 items still sitting on the agenda, one that was sitting there for over 15 months. There were items on the agenda, over 60 items sometimes. We need to be able to follow rules, and that goes both ways, but we also have to enforce our rules, which is what this commission has done. People may not like it, but the only time rules are being enforced is when they're being broken. And we do need, that was a great idea that you had. There needs to be some sort of bringing everyone together. And hopefully after this election, and I'm reelected, I will still listen to all of the people that have criticized me, which I've done before. The people that don't have signs in their lawn, the opponents are still calling me, asking me for advice. I have no problem reaching out to anyone, and I always appreciate them calling me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rose. Ms. Velasquez, on the issue of a community relations board concept.
Let's just wait till everybody stops clapping. The divisiveness has started from this commission. Constantly silence, but that is so disrespectful. It is actually his family who's being disrespectful, as we can clearly see where it comes from. But the divisiveness has started from this commission, silencing residents, throwing them out of a town hall for expressing their thoughts. But the issue is when it's one of their friends coming up to the podium, he can say whatever he wants, talk about whatever subject they want, and nobody throws them out, nobody threatens them with the police. But when it's a resident that's not their friend or doesn't agree with them, then that person gets thrown out, or then the rules apply to that person. And the rules should be applying to everyone. And there's many instances, even during my first term, the mayor came up here and nearly knocked out the person that was speaking, which was our town attorney, to come here and insult one of our commissioners. But that was okay. So that's just, all this starts from here. And the example comes from here. And uniting our community is what we need to be doing. Because we're a diverse community where there's different religions, different cultures, and that's what we should be embracing. And coming here and spewing hatred all the time is just not right.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Fine.
I didn't address anybody by name.
So I just want to say,
You did mention
that
Mr.
when it was brought
Rose's
up,
family. I'll give you 30 seconds.
that's all I need is
But
30 seconds.
let's
It's
try
going to be
and-
right on. It's going to be right on point.
But then, so then
Thank you.
people come out and bursting like this, and
Don't
that's
interrupt
okay.
me, Ms. Velasquez. I'll recognize you.
Watch our meetings. Watch our meetings. So
Mr. Rose has 30
it
seconds.
started under the previous commission with the mute button, the middle fingers from Ileana Salzauer. I have emails from here. These are texts she sent to me. Dictator Burkett needs to work within democracy. He's such a bullshit artist. He's fomenting hate and division in this community. It started from the person that's running again, and it's unfortunate. He will not be reelected, and we will finally be able to move this town forward and unite us. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Vildasiga, on the notion of a community relations board concept for the town?
Yeah, no, actually, I had a conversation with a neighbor who I think is here. I saw her come in earlier, and we met with a consultant about how do you heal a community that's divided, and I have lots of ideas for how to do that. But I do want to speak just to the larger background here. I grew up in Surfside. I moved here when I was a year old, and we were, at the time, the only Spanish-speaking family on my block. I had a beautiful childhood here, and I know what a warm and welcoming community this place really is. I do think that divisiveness has become a problem lately, but I think the best way to address it isn't with a board, but by electing people who are truly going to be representatives of the entire community. And that's what we have not had in the last couple of years. Just to take a very simple point, when people are called up to speak at the podium, I said the podium was going to be a big part of my talk tonight, the mayor has already sorted them, some of you might know about this, into pros and cons, the people on his side and the people against. The people against the mayor get to go first, and then he brings up his team. I've never seen the mayor change his mind on any issue in response to a public comment or really grow in any way, and that's also true of some other members of the commission. An example that is close to my heart, when we had the controversy over the pride flag in 2022, the mayor said to the media, well, only 1 or 2 people in Surfside want that. And I said as a gay man at the podium, you don't realize this kind of bullying really hurts gay youth to feel that they're in a small, small, small minority. A few months later, he came back when we were talking about Pride Month, and he said only 0.001% of the population would go to a Pride event. That's 1 in 100,000 people. There was no growth, no learning, no attempt to connect with a community that wasn't his own. That's been the tenor of this commission, and that's what I hope will change. I would represent everybody in this town, and I really mean that.
Thank you, Mr. Valdastini. Mr. Bloomstein, please.
Dr. Murphy, you don't want to move to Surfside?
I love this town.
I think community relations board is a great idea, and I fully support it. As we said, another issue facing our community is respect for one another. We have lost the ability to communicate without denigrating an opposing viewpoint. I will fix this by speaking up if I hear a colleague treat a resident or colleague wrongly. I will make sure that everyone is heard, whether for or against an item. When you come to speak with me about an issue at a public meeting or on the streets of Surfside, I will reach out to the residents proactively, including attending local condo association meetings. I will conduct commission meetings to ensure every resident's opinion is heard and considered in a dignified way. I will respect each resident and colleague. I will demonstrate compassion, and I will advocate for unity, inclusion, tolerance, and respect for all our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bloomstein. Mr. Brunabin.
First, I support a community relations board. I spent many nights meeting with community boards all over New York City. It's a great place to get input from the general community, understand their wants, needs, and report back to the commission and or other politicians. Second, I really want to say that this is the only person up here running independent. I tried to. Unfortunately, the other side attacked me before I was even able to speak publicly. I've never met with any of the Burkett ticket. No one has reached out to speak with me even before they attacked me for meeting a resident at the mayoral debate that I had never met before. Apparently, I was making deals with developers before I even got to speak. I support Pride Month, and if anyone knows me, we are a diverse household. So it's not just pride, but also diversity that I think is important to this community. With all due respect, people are talking about the current commission kicking people out. We have a few agitators in our community that come up and spit, no matter what they want, no matter what the topic is. And I think Jerry, who oftentimes doesn't agree with the commission, is able to go up there, communicate. Jerry's never been kicked out because he speaks properly. He brings his point up to the commission. They may agree, they may not agree, but he's not an agitator. I don't believe agitators should be given time to agitate when we have real town business to accomplish.
Thank you, Mr. Time was up.
Dr. Murphy?
Mr. Cotto? Oh, Jared.
He goes by Jerry also. Gerardo Vildostigui, but
Sorry, I've met him as
no,
Jerry.
but but afterwards, yeah.
We have a common friend.
Yeah. So I do want to say, just for the record, and I appreciate the kind word. I have been silenced on multiple occasions for real technicalities that, including at the April 2023 meeting when I was raising the question of why we were giving a favor to the Mac developer worth possibly hundreds of millions of dollars and asking, whether the mayor had, would show his receipts for the trip to meet that developer. I was forced to stop speaking during that meeting on the technicality that it wasn't related to the item, but of course, it was related to the item. And so this kind of thing has happened to me quite a lot. I've been silenced, interrupted, and shut down many times, even though I think my speech is always respectful and always on point, and that is part of the problem. So
Thank you,
I do appreciate the compliment, but I want to clear the record.
Very good, very good. Mr. Cotto.
As far as joining another board, I don't think so. Oh. Hello? There. Yeah, as far as joining a Dade County board or whatever, I don't think we need that because we're 1 mile long. I think we have enough residents that would love to participate in a relations board. I think it's a wonderful idea. In 34 years that I've lived here, I have never seen this kind of divisiveness. People are uncomfortable sometimes to speak. They're afraid to speak. We've never seen that. So I think creating our own relations board would be a wonderful added community board. I mean, I think it would work, and I think right now we need it. We can use it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Forbes.
I think a community relations board is a great idea. I am, of all the people up here, I've only lived in Surfside a little over 4.5 years. And since I've been here, there are issues on both commissions. Last commission, and I said this when I decided to run, that I was absolutely on Team Burkett. I gave him money. I thought he was the right man for the job. The commissioners that were here, including people that are sitting up here, put a middle finger up to him, swore at him, yelled at him, screamed at him, got up and walked out on him. And I'd never seen anything like that just moving down here. Never seen anything like that. This commission, if the commissioners don't agree with the current mayor, they get up and leave in the middle of the meeting, and they don't come back. It's happened 6 times in 2 years where a commissioner who is running for re-election gets up, takes her bags, and leaves because she's not getting her way. That is not a good thing. Is there divisiveness? Yes. Has someone tonight been yelled at by our very esteemed moderator to stop talking out of turn? Yes. We have to do something because this is just wrong. We shouldn't live this way. We're a small town. Regardless of who wins in 3 weeks, we cannot live this way. We have to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Okay.
No,
Mr. Landsman,
lie, so it's
for the final word on divisiveness.
To my colleagues here, thank you for your thoughts. I've been here 14 years, and yes, the town has evolved. New residents from 10, 20, 30 years ago. We should and we need to come together, absolutely. As my 2 years on the commission, I've personally made it a mandate of myself to remain mature, professional, thoughtful, caring, and not engage in some of the shenanigans that, yes, some of my peers up here have gotten to. I listen, I learn, and I appreciate the perspectives of all people that come to speak. Community Relations Board, absolutely. Let's bring our local residents together that can have conversations open to the public to offer opinions because we don't have enough time together. The events that the town is sponsoring through tourism help bring a lot of people together from all parts of our community, and they enjoy, whether they're of one religion or one preference, they enjoy these events together. I will share that I am proud to have made the motion back in April to fly the pride flag for the month of June. It was a divisive issue that could have torn our town apart. I didn't want that to happen. I support that. I appreciate the vice mayor, and I appreciate the Commissioner Velasquez for supporting me and having that pass. We need to do more. We need to come together. We need to respect each other and live in our 1 mile by 1 mile community together in peace.
Thank you so much, Mr. Landsman. We're going to begin our closing remarks now, and we have 2 minutes for closing, I believe, 2 minutes. And we'll begin on the right side. And excuse me, Mr. Rose?
Not 3 minutes?
Oh, if it was 3, I'm sorry. It was advertised as 3.
That's the one thing we're all going to be in agreement on tonight.
I didn't want to, we're not going to cut off your last minute closing. It's a 3-minute statement for closing here this evening. And we'll begin on the other side of the dais with Mr. Vildastegui.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Gerardo Vildastegui. In my life outside of this chambers, I've been a law professor and I'm currently a teacher and tutor. And one of the things that really a teacher always has to do when you meet a student, when you work with a student, is to really see the best in them. And you have to really believe in that so that you can make the student the better or best version of themselves. As a candidate, that's a similar philosophy, is what motivates me. I see the best in this community, and I want to help the community get there. I try in my public remarks and my public conduct to exemplify the ideals that I want the community to live up to, and that's a big part of why I'm running this campaign. As I said, I believe we can have a better kind of discourse up here. And on my yard signs, you'll see the slogan, "Keep Surfside Special," and if you go to my webpage, some of the issues are divided under 3 main headings: preserving the spirit of the community, protecting and improving our quality of life, and lastly, ensuring open and ethical government. I want to say something in turn about each of the 3. In terms of the spirit of the community, this question about divisiveness, I think, gets to the heart of something very important. I want to tell a quick story. On one of my many walks around town, I knocked on a house on Carlisle Avenue, and I said, many years ago as a 10-year-old, I recited Shakespeare in your living room. And the reason why was because there was a kind old woman there named Leah Grossman, who was Jewish but went to the bingo at St. Joseph's Church, where my dad was the treasurer. And she had met me through my parents, and she decided somehow that this Cuban kid needed to read Shakespeare, and she had me recite the oration from Julius Caesar. That's the community I know we can be, and I'm shaped by it, and I want to shape it back. In terms of quality of life, I think we've covered a lot of the important issues tonight. These debates tend to gravitate toward that. The issue of open, ethical government always seems to fall by the wayside. It happened at the first debate, too, and I need to make a quick point about that. The issue came up earlier about the vice mayor's conflict of interest and whether he's a developer, and they said, no, he's just a contractor. That's something that he said at the last debate back in 2022 as well. But lately, the vice mayor is partnered with the same realtor, the same shell corporations that build houses on multiple lots in Surfside. So once you're a contractor in a steady partnership with those other businesses, you have become a developer. You're part of a developer team. And that's part of the problem, is that we have these conflicts of interest that are pervasive in the community. We also have, and we haven't gotten to talk about this, a mayor who has moved into town hall and is directing the day-to-day activities of the staff. This is maybe nerd stuff, but we have a commission manager form of government. That was something that was created in the early 20th century to prevent corruption, like we saw in, Tammany Hall in New York City. That rests on a division between the elected legislature that makes their policy in public and then goes away, and the professional management that runs the town. That boundary has been completely collapsed over the last 2 years, and the incumbent commissioners have done nothing to stop that or to reverse it. That's a crucial issue in the town, and I wish we had had some time to talk about it. My main vision, though, remains a positive one. I know what Surfside can be, and I hope I have the chance to sit here again to be part of the process of making Surfside an even better version of what it's always been.
Thank you so much. Mr. Vildastegui, you made a specific reference to Mr. Rose. I'm going to afford him 30,
He knew I was going to have a rebuttal, too.
30 seconds
He's a smart guy. Don't
to
deny
respond.
that. He'll tell you when to yell many times. So 3 of the 19 homes I'm building have to do with that investor. And guess what? The one that they built, I was just a contractor, and they sold it to somebody now who resides here with his family. There's another one of those that somebody's going to be moving into, or they could be selling. The people that 90% that I'm building for are all end users, and then the one that they built, somebody's now an end user living in this town because people want to live here. It's desirable, and I'd be more than happy to build for any of them, whether they want to sell it or live here for themselves. Surfside's a desirable place, and I'll build for anyone that wants to contribute and be a part of this town.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Velasquez, for your closing statement, you are recognized.
Thank you. Well, first, before I read my closing statement, I'd like to make a comment to residents that are here and listening at home. You can clearly see where all the hatred and disrespect and division comes from in the group of people that are sitting here. So with that said, I'm going on to read my statement. As I come before you seeking re-election to the commission, I want to express my deep gratitude for the trust and support you have placed in me thus far. Serving as your representative has been both an honor and a privilege, and I am committed to continue to work tirelessly on behalf of our community. Throughout my time in office, I have dedicated myself to listening to your voice, to the voices of our residents, understanding your concerns and advocating passionately for the issues that matter most to you. Whether it's improving our infrastructure, enhancing public service, or fostering economic growth, I have always strived to make decisions that will benefit our community both now and in the future. My greatest motivation is to complete the vital infrastructure projects that we initiated for everyone's benefit for today and generations to come. But my work isn't far from done. There are still challenges to overcome and opportunities to seize, and I am ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I pledge to continue being accessible and responsive to your needs, to collaborate with fellow commissioners and community stakeholders, and to always prioritize the well-being and prosperity of our town. Together we have achieved much, but together we can achieve even more. With your support, I am confident that we can continue to build a stronger, united, and more vibrant community for generations to come. So I ask for your vote once again, not just for me, but for the future of our town. Thank you, Nelly Velasquez, for a strong and united Surfside. And again,
Thank you so much.
but do I still have time? Yes. I just want to, I can't stop saying this, that we need to understand where all this division and hatred is coming from. And as you have seen it here, not just from the people that are here, but also the people that are some people that are in the audience yelling out and being disturbing, and it's just not right. Our town needs to be united. We need to move forward without all this hatred, and that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Rose, for your closing statement.
If you have stuck around to listen, thank you. It's no secret that there's been a lot of negative campaigning. Because of this, many residents ask why I continue to run. The reality is I stand these issues better than anyone up here, not just because of my background in real estate and construction, but because I enjoy all of the amenities the town has to offer with my family. We go to the beach, I run in the hard pack, we get acai bowls at the farmer's market, we attend town parties. We go to our playgrounds, we participate in the youth sports programs. Not many candidates can actually say that. So I'm running again because I know I can continue to be effective, and I do care what happens to our community since I actually experience it firsthand. However, I'd like to comment on some of the baseless accusations for those who don't know me and have blindly trusted the words of others. First, size of homes and condos, to be clear, at no time in the last 2 years have I or the current commission passed any regulations to make homes or buildings bigger than what they are. Heights of homes have remained at 30 feet for as far back as we know. Home lot size has remained at 72% coverage. Condo buildings have remained at 120 feet high and 12 stories. Contrary to what has been said, I do not want homes or condos to be any bigger or taller, and I do not believe in changing a homeowner's rights to make them bigger or smaller. People have also falsely claimed that I would recuse myself on all zoning issues. That never happened. I did say that I would recuse myself when there was a conflict. I have done so and will continue to do so. Next, my profession. I am a general contractor. I don't design homes, I build and renovate them. I don't control the boxy design, nor have I swayed the P&Z board to approve any projects because I'm not even hired for a job until after plans are made and P&Z approves the design. And no, my business has not grown since my term started. As I've stated, I've been involved in 19 homes in Surfside in the last 2 years, 17 of which were approved prior to me becoming commissioner during the prior commission's term, and I've shown this on my website and here tonight multiple times. As far as new developments in Surfside, I've done 0 favors and have not taken or ever been offered any kickbacks for any developers. Again, no proof of this. Further, not a single variance has been granted for any commercial project presented to this commission. All were by right projects, no variances given. No, we did not change the code to allow a developer to have underground parking. It's a federal FEMA regulation. While some may not like these projects, the property owners presented projects that were to code. I recognize the legal implication as well as the tax benefits that will be enjoyed by all residents. My gain is the same as every other resident's gain. Also, no, I don't drive the town golf cart all day. I even gave Jerry a ride once. It is my own, purchased with my own money. I'm not a mob boss. I don't control code or any town employees. My clients do not get preferential treatment or faster processing times for permits. So despite the blatant lies that have been published to residents, every fake call to code compliance, every unsubstantiated ethics complaint that falls flat, the intimidating tactics of videotaping and cursing at me and my family when you see us around town, this will not stop me from doing what I think is best for the town. I look forward to discussing more of these facts. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Paul, for your closing statement.
Thank you. Esteemed members of our community, I'm grateful for your time and attention to discuss the future of our beloved Surfside. It is truly an honor to be your candidate. I want to take a moment to reflect on the past, to a time when I was a child growing up in Surfside in the 1960s. My parents chose this community for its safety, proximity to the beach, and the vibrant community center pool that became the heartbeat of our neighborhood. I remember learning to swim, the festive events with fireworks, and the camaraderie of our neighbors, all the elements that make life in South Florida truly special. Surfside in those days was a place of simplicity and warmth. I have memories of Santa Claus handing out toys by the pool and family rides to marvel at the holiday decorations after lighting our menorah. We lived on Emerson off of Surfside Boulevard, near the home of the star of Flipper and the family that owned Epicure. Back then, Surfside was a place where different cultures were embraced and children played together on quiet streets, rode bicycles, and built memories that last a lifetime. I recall my upbringing, the synagogue we walked to every Saturday, and the close-knit community that shaped who I am today. My parents, Anne and Leo Paul, were pillars of this community. My mother was a woman of valor, a Levite descendant with the voice of an angel. My father, a CPA, worked as the town auditor, and together they instilled Jewish identity and Torah values in their children. I'm forever grateful for their legacy. Surfside has evolved since those days, now a destination for kosher restaurants with several synagogues and a new surf club. It has become a testament to the inclusivity that defines our neighborhood. When I lived and worked in New York City, I always knew I had a home in Surfside. I returned to be with my parents in their final years and decided to run for office, driven by a profound love for the community they cherished, a community now mine to protect and nurture. As we consider our future, we acknowledge the real issues that demand our attention. My experience and understanding of neighborhood issues, especially the challenges faced by condominium buildings, uniquely position me to contribute to our community's growth. I must address the divisiveness that has surfaced and the dangerous labeling of neighbors as anti-Semitic. This false narrative goes against the very principles we hold dear. As written in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. We must rise above such divisions with words of wisdom from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. To be kind is more important than to be right. What people need is not a brilliant mind that speaks, but a special heart that listens. Please vote for authentic, compassionate leadership. Together we can shape the future of Surfside to one that honors our shared history, embraces our diversity, and addresses the challenges we face as a united community. Elect me, Tina Paul, to serve as your commissioner to ensure that Surfside continues to thrive as a place we all proudly call home. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr. Landsman is recognized for his closing statement.
Thank you once again to the League of Women Voters and Dr. Murphy, and thank you to our entire town staff and all of our residents of Surfside. This, as predicted, has been a spirited and hopefully informative forum. Let me once again share with you my priorities: public safety, listening and truly respecting our entire community, respect and support for town employees and administration, responsible growth and evolution while incorporating the history and uniqueness of Surfside, ensuring our residents, visitors, and businesses have options and choices. I sincerely feel that I have helped our town navigate many challenging issues over the past 2 years. Once again, I humbly ask for your vote.
Mr. Forbes is recognized for a closing statement.
Thank you, and thank you for the League of Women Voters, and especially Dr. Murphy. It's got to start somewhere with the diversity in this town, and I'm going to start with it, because my closing statement was going to be talking about things that have been said about a lot of us up here, a lot of negative things and a lot of really horrible things. But you know what? It's got to start in some place and some time. I've told you tonight what I'm about. I've told you what I want for this town. I moved here with my 6-year-old girl 4 years ago, and I found this a great place to be. She loves playing tennis on the tennis court. She loves being in the soccer clinics. She enjoys the town of Surfside, which makes me very happy. She wants to be raised here, as do I, and I want to raise her here. We bought a piece of land. We're building a house. She goes to school here. And I want her to spend the rest of her life until she's ready to leave here in Surfside. And I don't think that can be done with everybody being so angry and lying about everything that is being said and being done in this town. It can't be. It has to stop. It has to not only stop with all of us up here, but it has to stop with you people down there. These people get up and cheer. They get angry. They get up and cheer. They get angry. If it doesn't start with all of us, it's not going to go anywhere. I promise you I will work my hardest for 2 years to do the best I can to work for every single person in this room. And I'm telling you that is not what I was going to say tonight, but I really feel that looking at his face and her people that are not from Surfside, looking at us and how we're acting as a group is just wrong. And whoever you vote for, please come out and vote in 3 weeks. It is the most important thing you can do. I have 4 older kids, and I've told them this their whole lives. It doesn't matter who you vote for as long as you vote. People have died for the opportunity that you're going to have on the 18th or 19th of March. Sorry, I should know that. So please ask me any questions. You can get me at any time on my cell, my email. It is not a group of 5 against a group of 5. We are all residents of Surfside. We all want the best for this town. And I'm really surprised I said that, but thank you all for coming tonight.
That's a start. Mr. Cotto is now recognized for a closing statement.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Murphy and the League of Women Voters and my wife for putting up with this craziness. I really believe that together we can preserve the past and embrace the future. Once elected, we'll work on strengthening our code to protect our town and bring our residents together to solve the issues that affect them. Residents come first, and it's all about public service, not personal gain. Let's finish the projects that directly affect our residents. Stop catering to developers or builders. Bottom line, we need to restore trust in our government. I'm very proud of the group that I'm running alongside with. We are a very diverse group, but have very similar vision for our town. And again, it's all about public service and not personal gain. And I'm going to do this again. Para mis amigos de habla hispana, estas elecciones de marzo 19 van a definir la dirección de nuestro pueblo. De Surfside. Les pido su apoyo y su voto para corregir la dirección que esta administración nos está llevando. Salgamos a las urnas y demostrémosle que Surfside no está a la venta. Gracias.
Very good. Mr. Bruneman is now recognized for a closing statement.
I want to thank Dr. Murphy, the League of Women Voters, for putting on this debate again tonight. I really hope that people are watching live at home or will watch before March 19th at home. Most of the people in this room have already made up their mind, and the important aspect of this race is to get the people that haven't gotten the information yet. I want to remind people of why I'm running for commission. I believe that I can offer the town valuable skill sets and experiences to help move this town forward on some very important issues. We've talked a lot about stormwater management tonight, and I still believe it's our town's, it's the most important item in our town for the long-term viability. I'm also glad that we actually spoke a little bit tonight about parking and the commercial district. At the last debate, those two items were not discussed, and I feel that a small urban town like ours, the town, not the homes, but the town is crucial to the viability of our community. Improving walkability and pedestrian access, both in the residential area and in the town, is very important to keep Surfside an attractive destination and a safe place for families. In closing, I want to encourage everyone to vote, whether through the mail or in person on March 19th. Every vote counts. Do your own due diligence. There are a lot of questionable narratives going around from people that have never met me or spoken to me. If you're open to new blood on the commission, someone who is practical and can work with others, vote for me, Jared Bernabend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And finally, this evening, for a closing statement, Mr. Bloomstein is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you again for this engaging forum. As I conclude, I want to be transparent with you. I have no hidden agenda, no ties to special interests, no political machinery back in my campaign, and no hidden funds. What I do have is a genuine desire to make Surfside the best community for all of our residents, including my beautiful wife, son, and myself. We too are residents. I'm not a career politician and do not aspire to higher office. I'm just your neighbor who cares deeply about our town. I've chosen to step up, lay it on the line, and run for the Surfside Commission because I believe in the positive change we can achieve. I cannot win this election without your help and support. Election day is on March 19th, and absentee ballots are in the mail, and early voting begins next week. I commit to being an independent voice, accountable solely to the voters. If you're tired of fellow residents being tossed from commission meetings by the very police you pay for, then vote for me. If you're tired of elected officials insulting each other on the dais, then vote for me. If you're tired of watching spaghetti electrical wires overhead and across our streets and roads, then vote for me. If you're tired of flooded streets, then vote for me. If you believe that it's time for a change, then vote for me, your change agent. A vote for me is a vote for a calm, open, friendly, and smiling commissioner who loves everyone and generally wants the best for Surfside. Vote number 40 for Gerald Bloomstein, Team Surfside, for commissioner. Your support is invaluable in realizing our vision for Surfside. Together, let's build a community that thrives and embodies the spirit of Surfside. I am Gerald Bloomstein, number 40 on your ballot. Remember, 4-0 is the way to go. I'm not finished. Gracias de nuevo por este interesante foro. I have a couple seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
Please.
Para concluir, quiero ser transparente con ustedes. No tengo ninguna agenda oculta, ni vínculos con intereses especiales, ni maquinaria política que respalda mi campaña, ni fondos ocultos. Lo que sí tengo es un deseo de hacer de Surfside la mejor comunidad para todos sus residentes, incluidos mi esposa, mi hijo y yo. Nosotros también somos residentes. Prometo pensar y actuar de forma independiente para la ciudad de Surfside. Vote por Gerald Bloomstein para la comisión de Surfside número 40 en su boleta. Gracias y buenas noches.
Thank you. And in closing, I'd just like to say on behalf of the League of Women Voters, we really enjoy having the opportunity to come here to Surfside for these events. And I think the residents of Surfside should be grateful for the fact that they have such excellent candidates to choose from. And I congratulate each and every one of you for stepping forward for elective office. We appreciate your service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.